The idea of Pan-Africanism has been discussed and used as a rallying cry among people of African heritage. The results have always been a failure. I think all these efforts are wasted and must be abandoned. It is a waste of time, as it is based on ignorance of the fact that Africa is not only the origin of all human beings, but that it has also been significantly influenced first by Europe, then by America, and more recently by Asia. In that regard, Africa is a melting pot of all races. At the psychological level, the vestiges of colonialism are deeply ingrained in the African mindset, and that is not a bad thing. It only means that the contemporary African perspective is enriched and expanded. What I see emerging is that Africans are in the process of gestation, and from them will emerge a new civilization and progress that connects all of humanity. That is the kind of Pan-Africanism that is emerging, which has nothing to do with the old mode of exclusiveness, the kind of nonsense that insists, I am an African. We are talking here about Africans emerging as universal human beings. Universality is the perspective and worldview on which the contemporary African operates. The modern, contemporary African is global in perspective and diverse in thinking. All the cultures of the world imposed on him have enriched him, not enslaved him. As we see the trend across the world, there is a critical mass of Africans rising, and these Africans are not rising solely on the basis of being African or of African culture, but as universal human beings. It is important that these bright, universal Africans bond and interrelate as active citizens of the universal world. Thus, a new African identity is taking root, and that African identity is universal. That, in essence, is the notion of culture. Culture is about the application of wisdom to everyday life. This means that culture evolves with changing realities. A culture that refuses to evolve will lead those people clinging to it to die. There is a misconception that we must preserve old African cultures. That statement, in its essence and character, is at the very heart of backwardness, ignorance, and stagnation. It is ignorant to believe that culture exists merely for its own sake. Culture is distilled wisdom used to survive and prosper. If that old culture, based on an emerging, evolving, changing environment, does not enable you to survive and prosper, then it must be discarded or reviewed in the light of changing realities. The world does not stand still. It never does. It keeps on evolving. And so should culture. These new breeds of bright, universal Africans have gotten the hint to evolve and weave different influences into the core of Africanism. And the result is a powerful, adaptive people of African descent emerging across the world. This new breed of bright, universal Africans is, in fact, composed of existentialists practicing existentialism. Existentialism is about being resourceful in the face of difficulties, oppression, racism, and segregation. It is about having an internal locus of control, developing strength, and navigating the complexities of racism with superior resourcefulness. It is about weaving meaning out of despair and being resilient, rather than remaining frustrated by the outdated habits of racism that continue to persist in the minds of people around the world. In fact, you eventually become a teacher of love and forgiveness. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre's book, Being and Nothingness, is an attempt to provide a comprehensive and systematic account of existentialism. One of Sartre's most famous slogans is, "Existence precedes essence." By this, he means that human beings do not have a pre-existing nature or purpose that defines them. Rather, they exist first as a free and conscious reality and then create their own essence or meaning through their actions. Human beings are not what they are, but rather what they make themselves to be. This also implies that there is no universal or objective morality or set of values that can guide human actions. Each individual must create his or her own values and norms by choosing freely and authentically. Romanticism and existentialism are both movements that emerged in response to the rationalism and empiricism of the Enlightenment. They both emphasize the importance of emotion, individualism, and authenticity in human life. However, They also have some significant differences. Romanticism celebrates the inherent romantic essence of human beings and their creative potential, while existentialism asserts that human beings have no predefined essence and must create their own meaning. In both Romanticism and Existentialism, you follow your own feelings and values rather than conforming to social norms or expectations. You create your own meaning and purpose in life rather than accepting any given or imposed meaning. You face the challenges and uncertainties of existence rather than escaping or denying them.
Why was Africa the last continent to join global civilization? At first glance, it might seem puzzling to call Africa the last continent to join modern civilization. After all, Africa, I's original home for all people of the world. When Europeans arrived on Africa's coasts in the 15th century, starting with the Portuguese, they set up trading posts, but left the interior largely untouched. This wasn't just because of Africa's challenging geography or climate. It was also due to historical choices and forces that kept Africa's heartland separate from the early waves of global development. One way to look at this is that Africa was, in a sense, saved for last. Early civilizations around the world rose, flourished, and sometimes fell, creating space for Africa to step in later. This delayed integration wasn't a sign of weakness, but a historical twist that allowed Africa to absorb and blend influences from across the globe. The painful experiences of slavery and colonialism, while devastating, also gave Africans a unique resilience and ability to innovate in the face of modern challenges. Today, as the world becomes more connected, there's a growing opportunity for a new, universal civilization to emerge. Africa, with its history of overcoming adversity, is in a strong position to contribute fresh ideas and perspectives. This new civilization won't just copy old models, it will combine Africa's deep-rooted wisdom with the best of global knowledge and technology. The goal isn't to romanticize the past, but to learn from it and use science and innovation to build a sustainable future. As Africa tackles issues like corruption, underdevelopment, and outside pressures, there's a growing understanding that real progress comes from blending scientific advancements with a strong sense of identity and purpose. In this light, Africa's delay in joining modern civilization can be seen not as a failure, but as a period of preparation, a time for its people to gather the strength and wisdom needed to play a key role on the global stage. By embracing both its rich heritage and the tools of modern science, Africa is uniquely positioned to help lead humanity toward a more united and compassionate future. As the world grows closer and old divisions fade, the dream of a global society built on mutual respect, scientific progress, and shared values becomes more possible than ever. What do you think about this perspective? Let's discuss Africa's complex history and its potential to shape a brighter future for us all. Each human being has a self-concept and a self-image. The self-concept is the individual's concepts, ideas of who he thinks that he is. The idea of the self is translated into a mental image, a self-image, and seen as if it is real. The self-concept is conceptual, ideation, yet it is transformed into a pictorial form and treated as if it is tangible. The individual employs the various ego defense mechanisms to defend his self-concept and self-image, and in defending them, make them seem real in his awareness. The various ego defense mechanisms are repression, suppression, dissociation, denial, displacement, projection, rationalization, intellectualization, minimization, fear, anger, pride, shame, fantasy, avoidance, reaction formation, sublimation, depression, paranoia, schizophrenia, etc. Beginning from birth. The human child uses his inherited biological constitution and social experiences to construct a self-concept for him. See George Kelly, Personality as a Self-Construct, by age 12. The self-concept, also called personality, is, more or less, in place. Once established, it becomes stable and is difficult to change. The individual, at age 63, is pretty much who he was at age 13. That is to say, that the self-concept and personality is stable over time. It is trauma to the brain, accidents, organic disease, issues, and religious conversion or conversion to a political ideology, such as socialism, that changes people's basic personality types. Once established, the self-concept can be studied and understood, and where there are dysfunctional aspects to it, efforts can be made to change it. The self-concept is exactly that: a concept, an idea held in mind and defended with the various ego defenses. That idea of the self is rooted in the individual's inherited body and social experiences, two variables he cannot change. Therefore, he cannot totally change his self-concept, unless, of course, he can change his body and society. The science of genetic and genetic engineering, no doubt, will affect this change in the future. Consider the person who inherited a weak body and feels physically weak and sickly. He may have developed a self-concept that says that he is weak and ask other people to help him, to guide him, hence have a dependent personality disorder. While he still has his weak body, he can only change his self-concept only so much. He can study his self-concept, understand it, and modify it within reason, but he cannot necessarily change it entirely. Unless he changes his body, secular psychotherapy aims at helping the individual to understand his self-concept, and where there is problem, change it. Spiritual psychotherapy aims at teaching people that they have separated self-concepts, aka ego, and that they need to change them, that they need to return to unified self-concepts, aka Christ self, a loving self. The separated ego self seeks self-interest at the expense of other selves, whereas the unified self, the Christ, works for social and common interests. When the self-concept is changed from selfish to social serving, the individual tends to contribute to social welfare, hence feels good about himself. I will not indulge in spiritual psychology here, for if you have followed these essay series so far, you probably have a good understanding of my spiritual psychology. Suffice it to say that human beings must change their self-concepts from separated to unified, from selfish to social-centered, and learn to work for social interests. The reward for working for social good is peace and joy. We must make no mistake about it. It is very difficult to change the self-concept. As already pointed out, the self-concept is reached in childhood before age 12 and is influenced by the individual's inherited genes and early childhood social experiences. Society and its culture heavily influence the self-concept, and since the individual really cannot go back and change his genes and society, he cannot totally change his self-concept. We must, therefore, not hope for a perfect self-concept and self-image. The best that we can aim at is a self-concept that gets along with most people in one's society. No single identity exists in isolation. Toward a universal understanding of humanity, today's rapidly changing world, the complexities of identity have never been more apparent. As cultures and people converge, the rich tapestry of human connection reveals that no single identity exists in isolation. Rather, we are part of an intricate network of influences, biological, cultural, social, and historical, that together shape who we are. The emergence of a universal human being. The heart of this discussion lies the concept of the universal human being, which emphasizes the inherent worth and dignity shared by all people. Despite our diverse backgrounds, we all belong to the same species, Homo sapiens, sharing a vast majority of our DNA. This biological unity underpins our shared capacities for reason, language, empathy, and moral judgment. Our fundamental needs: survival, security, love, and belonging, remind us that beneath our surface differences lies a common human experience, breaking barriers. Through interracial love, modern narratives of love and connection increasingly showcase how relationships can transcend historical divides. Consider the story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, British royal and an African-American actress whose union, sparked through online dating, defied centuries of societal norms. Their love is more than a personal romance. It is a symbol of breaking down old stereotypes, shattering boundaries, and building bridges between cultures. Their journey illustrates how modern love can serve as a catalyst for redefining social hierarchies and embracing a more inclusive global identity. Embracing shared humanity in a globalized world as our world becomes ever more interconnected through technology. The traditional lines that once divided us are fading. Workplaces, social media, and even political spheres are increasingly populated by diverse voices whose varied experiences enrich the collective dialogue. For instance, media organizations and political institutions are beginning to celebrate diversity not as a challenge to overcome, but as a strength that drives innovation and deepens our understanding of complex issues. This evolution towards shared humanity is a powerful reminder that our differences need not be obstacles. Instead, they can be the very catalysts for creativity, empathy, and progress. In a truly inclusive society, each person's unique background contributes to a broader, more resilient cultural fabric. Intersectionality, understanding the complexities of identity, while the vision of a universal human being emphasizes our commonalities. The framework of intersectionality offers critical insight into the nuances of individual identity. Coined by legal scholar Crenshaw, intersectionality examines how various aspects of our social identities, such as race, gender, class, sexuality, disability, and religion, overlap to create unique experiences of privilege and oppression. For example, while two individuals might share the same racial identity, the additional layers of gender, socioeconomic status, or other factors can lead to markedly different life experiences. Intersectionality does not challenge the idea of our shared humanity. Rather, it deepens our understanding by acknowledging that each of us navigates the world through a complex interplay of identities. Recognizing these intersections helps in crafting more targeted solutions to social inequities and fosters empathy and solidarity across diverse communities toward an inclusive future, a world bursting with a kaleidoscope of cultures and identities. Embracing both our shared humanity and our individual complexities is essential. As technology continues to bring us closer together, our global society is evolving into a space where difference is celebrated rather than feared. By understanding that every identity is interwoven with others, we can build a future where diversity is not merely tolerated, but actively cherished. This inclusive vision calls for concerted efforts in all aspects of life, from cultivating interracial love and fostering diverse workplaces to developing policies that address the unique challenges. Only then can we create a truly harmonious society where the universal human being and the intricacies of individual identity coexist, driving humanity toward a more equitable and enlightened future, in embracing our oneness as well as our beautifully complex differences. We not only honor our past, but also pave the way for a vibrant, interconnected future.
We're entering a time of big change, a conscious age, where success isn't just about technology or money, but about understanding ourselves and how we're all connected. This new way of thinking sees a world where science and spirituality work together, creating a future that's not only advanced, but also kind, wise, and united. Africa, as the birthplace of humanity, is in a special position to lead this change. Africa, the heart of a new conscious civilization. Africa has a history like no other. It's where humanity began, and it's home to incredible diversity and culture. While some parts of Africa may seem underdeveloped, this isn't a weakness. It's an opportunity. Africa is like a blank canvas, ready for a new beginning. One that's driven by a higher level of awareness. The challenges Africa has faced over time have prepared it to be a source of wisdom and guidance for a new kind of civilization. Big shift toward a conscious future. The conscious age is about leaving behind old ways of thinking, like competition, exploitation, and division, and moving toward a future based on teamwork, empathy, and a sense of unity. As science continues to reveal the mysteries of the world, we also need to explore the wisdom that comes from understanding our shared humanity. Africa, with its history of overcoming hardship and its ability to forgive and unite, is ready to lead this global awakening. This shift to a consciousness-based civilization is a huge change, one that redefines success not by wealth or power, but by spiritual growth and the well-being of everyone. The world is entering a new era of consciousness, and this change is both necessary and unavoidable. Africa's journey, from being the cradle of humanity to facing and overcoming immense challenges, has given its people the emotional and spiritual strength to guide the world into this new age, a civilization built on awareness, where science and spirit come together, offers a path to a better future. As we move into this new way of thinking, Africa's leadership and vision could be the key to uniting the world, creating a future of shared understanding and deep connection. What do you think about this idea of a conscious age? Let's explore together how this new way of thinking can reshape our world and create a future where science and spirit work hand in hand for the good of everyone.
From where I am standing, there is no such thing as race, however. I see culture as extant social reality. Culture is not natural. It is a social construct. It is man-made and can be remade. We construct culture and can deconstruct and reconstruct it. The only acceptable culture is one that serves social interests. Culture is man-made and ought not be deified and reified just because it exists. It is a pragmatic instrument for adapting to the exigencies of this world and where it is maladaptive. It is to be changed and made adaptive. Some human beings are very curious. They want to know who other people are. Some children want to play with children who look different from them. These types of people actively seek out those who seem different from them to relate to them. They feel more at home when they are relating to people from diverse backgrounds, whereas some person's comfort zone is to be with those who are like them. Some persons find comfort in being with seeming different persons. The relevant point is that there are human beings who have insatiable curiosity about other people. Some of these probably marry from outside their so-called race because of their love of diversity. A variegated rose garden is more beautiful than a rose garden with only one color. Nature is wise in making people come in different colors and shapes. Many persons do not take risks, certainly not big risks, like trying to relate to folks from outside their race. Having friends from outside one's race is certainly stepping into an unknown world where one may not have the cultural skills to navigate that more complicated world. Most people have social skills to cope with stimuli emanating from their in-group members, but are at a loss relating to cues from outside their group. Some persons take risk and deal with that which is different from them. They thrive in risk-taking, ordinarily. If you attempt to make friends from members of your own group, you risk being rejected. Many persons fear social rejection, so much so, to be rejected makes one's ego feel belittled, that to retain their false pride they do not take the initiative to talk to other people. This problem is compounded when it involves relating to those from outside one's race. A black man trying to make friends with a white person's risks being rejected by the latter and vice versa. To avoid social rejection, and thus retain his vanity, his sense of importance, he could avoid reaching out to other people to be his friends. It takes extraordinary sense of security and positive self-esteem for the individual to not care whether other people liked or did not like him, accepted or rejected him. Very secure persons with positive opinions of themselves reach out to all people for friendship, and in the nature of things risk being rejected by some. As they say, you win some and you lose some. You cannot win them all. If you approach 5 people for friendship, perhaps 4 will probably reject you. You take that rejection in stride and move on, and not permit it to deter you from reaching out to all people, trying to figure out how to relate to different persons, and their culture gives them a sense of satisfaction. For our present purposes, some people seek connection mostly with those who look like them, their so-called race, and fear the sense of aloneness they feel when around those not like them. On the other hand, some people seek out the company of those not like them, and in connecting with these seeming strangers feel more joined and peaceful. This observer certainly feels more at home, peaceful and happy when he is with folks from diverse races. If he finds himself in a room with whites, blacks, Chinese, etc., he feels very comfortable. But if he is in a room with folks that all look like him, he feels bored and antsy and gets out. He needs all humanity to feel truly joined, unified, and complete, hence peaceful and happy. Our completion and perfection lies in union with all humanity and with the Creator of humanity. The run of humanity identify with those like them in color and culture. It is easier to relate to those who look like one. The majority of mankind feels comfortable with, as they say, their kind. On the other hand, there are those who see all human beings as their kind. There are children who see children from all races as members of the same human family. Some children have to be trained to reach this level of identification, if at all, for any number of reasons, some known and others unknown. Some human beings prefer fellowship with all human beings irrespective of their place of origin. This observer remembers as a college student traveling all over Europe and North America. He felt at home wherever he went. Even in the blondest Scandinavia, he felt that the people were part of his people. In the southern United States, he felt kindred spirit with both blacks and whites, even though there was still racial segregation. He ignored those and made friends across the racial divide.
If you want other people to love and respect you, then love and respect other people. For as you do unto others, they are more likely to do to you. If you love other people, the chances are that they would love and respect you in return. And if you hate other people, the chances are that they would hate you in return. Giving is receiving. What you give is what is given to you. Love begets love, and hate begets hate. As far as human experience is our guide, most normal human beings desire to be treated as dignified by their fellow human beings. Deep down, most people feel unimportant, and want their fellow human beings to treat them as if they are important. Only a few persons feel unimportant, enough not to demand importance from their fellow human beings. Only the masochist, who enjoys pain, desires to be humiliated by other persons. Do you want other people to see you as respect-worthy? If so, then treat them in a respectable and dignified manner. Do you want other people to care for you? If so, care for other people. Do you want other people to be kind, gentle, and warm too? You, if so, be kind and warm and gentle towards other people. Generally, the normal human being does not like it if other people exploit and/or manipulate him, use him to get what they want, and then discard him. If the individual feels used, he feels angry and wants to attack. Even kill the person who he perceives as using him against his will. Given this truth, do unto others as you want them to do to you. Do not ever use, manipulate, or exploit other people to get what you want, and then discard them as scrap iron. Persons with personality disorders, such as those with narcissistic and/or histrionic, borderline, and antisocial personality disorders, often feel a sense of entitlement. They feel that they are special and superior to other people, and justify using other people, those they deem as inferior to them, to get what they want and discard them. Those they use resent them. This way, persons with personality disorders tend to generate interpersonal conflicts. It is necessary for you to always treat people in a positive manner. If you so want to be positively treated, why do I need to repeat this truism? It is because human beings are free agents, and as such, can make choices and behave accordingly. You can choose to see other people as shit and treat them as such. Human value is a social construct. As American racists and Adolf Hitler demonstrated, you can choose to devalue other people, to see them as worthless and valueless and useless and treat them as such. If you choose to, law or no law, you can harm, even kill other people. In the past, white Americans chose, cowardly, I might say, to exploit black people, to use them as salves. The great cowards knew that they were technologically more advanced than blacks, and instead of using that technology to help their fellow human beings, chose to use it to exploit them. The relevant point is that in this world of ours, any human being can choose to do to others as he pleases and, by and large, get away with it. Although he will eventually be repaid in kind, for what goes around comes around. If you exploit others, others will exploit you. If you have been a parent, you recognize how weak, vulnerable, and dependent children are, and you can choose to take advantage of them. We do not do so because we have love for all them. We care for those we love even if they are weak. Criminals take advantage of the weak and vulnerable. These cowards abuse children, physically and sexually. Men who are physically stronger than women, like cowardly criminals, impose their sexual will on women. Rape is a power and control motivated behavior. The salient point is that in the real world, we all have the capacity to harm other people if we choose to. We also have the capacity to help and love other people if we choose to. The critical variable here is choice, to do good or evil. This is the question always facing human beings. Always choose to help and to love. It is in service to humanity that we find our salvation and certainly find peace and joy. Whoever thinks that he can exploit other people and find peace and happiness is a fool. Love and be happy. Hate and be unhappy. I will not write a treatise on how to relate to other people, for you can read that in many books and/or take courses on them. All I will say is that love, respect, and serve all people, and you will not do any better than that. Do not just talk about lover and social service. Do it. Start right now. Love and help the person next to you. Do it, and do it now, not tomorrow. If you do it, love and serve all, you will know the peace and joy that Paul tells us passes human ego understanding. The future. Until recently, most people did not even know about other people. Africans, for example, had no contacts with Europeans and Asians. People lived in particular parts of the world and adapted to the exigencies of their world. They evolved particularistic cultures that enabled them to cope with the demands of their world. Culture enables people to adapt to their world, People who adapted to the temperate world of Europe had a particular culture. Those who adapted to the tropical world of Africa evolved a particular culture, and so on. Culture is a living thing. It changes to adapt to changed environments. Today's culture is from yesterday's adaptation to the physical and social environment. Hence is already dated and ought to be updated with information from our current experiences. These days, as cultures confront each other and are in an existential fight to die or live, some misguided persons see their culture as static and defend it at all times. They cling to what they call their past culture, unaware that that culture is supposed to change the moment it confronts different environments. A culture that is not dynamic does not enable the people to survive, but in fact may aid them to die out. Culture is the last refuge of the scoundrel. In time, all this cultural relativism nonsense will come to pass. Human beings will let go of their past and evolve a present universalistic culture that adapts to the real world. Improvements in transportation and communication technologies have made it now possible for individuals to travel all over the world. The individual can be in 3 or 4 continents in as many days. This observer has been in North America, flown to Europe and then Africa, all within 2 days. This means that the cultures of the world are now in close contact. Proximity leads to cultural diffusion, which is taking place at a greater speed than at any other time in human history. In the future, it is clear that there will emerge a universal culture that is not anything like today's particularistic cultures. The United States of America is already a veritable United Nations, with folks from all over the world living in it, their cultures mixing into a universalistic culture. The diversity of America is her strength, and if that diversity is melded into one universal American culture, rather than encourage folks to live in their particular enclaves, the United States will remain the greatest nation on planet Earth, at least for the foreseeable future. Homogeneous societies like China cannot compete with heterogeneous societies like the United States of America. If racism ends in America and the country fully utilizes the talents of all her peoples, no country on earth can compete with her. If China, the much-lauded empire of the 21st century, wants to rival America's economic and cultural strength, it has to go to Africa and import millions of Africans to give its culture the dynamism Africans have given to the Americas. Just think of what Africans have contributed to America's culture. Music, for example. Can Russia compete with America in the world of popular music? If and when America finally incorporated African Americans into its mainstream and stops discriminating and marginalizing them, it would unleash talents that would make it second to none in the world. No one else can compete with America that has Africans as the equal partners of Europeans. Nobody, though shunted to the margins of America. Look at what African Americans have contributed to America. Just imagine what they would do when they are respected. God, a creative force, the like of which the world has not seen before, would be unleashed in the world to cope with the exigencies of a multicultural world. We all have to learn to understand each other's cultures. Additionally, we have to learn to feel comfortable around each other. Whether we like it or not, a universal human being is emerging. Even the color of that human being would be different from the skin colors of present human beings. If you use the computer to simulate what the future man would look like, mix all the colors of the peoples of the world, what would emerge is a brown race. Like contemporary Brazilians, brown is the future of mankind. The future world is one people with one culture, and we might as well deal with that fact and stop wasting everyone's time by fighting the inevitable. Reality is what it is. It is not for us to determine it. Our role is to adapt to it. We are one human race and must live with one another, as loving and forgivingly as is humanly possible. It is in love and forgiveness that peace and joy lies forward, ever. Backward, never.
Our discussion has been a journey through time, space, and the shared human spirit. A voyage that illuminates the remarkable tapestry of Africa and its global diaspora. In exploring Africa, we delved into a continent that is not merely defined by its vast landscapes, rich natural resources, or its impressive ancient civilizations, but also by its enduring resilience and dynamic evolution. Africa is the cradle of humankind, the birthplace where early societies took root, thrived, and evolved into complex cultures that laid the foundation for human history. From the monumental achievements of the ancient Egyptians, Nubians, and Ethiopians to the sophisticated empires of West Africa, the continent's historical legacy is a powerful reminder of human ingenuity and adaptation. Equally compelling is the story of the people of African heritage who have spread across the globe. Their narrative is woven with threads of both struggle and triumph. Forced migrations, such as those during the transatlantic slave trade, brought pain and displacement, yet also sowed the seeds of cultural metamorphosis. The African diaspora, whether born out of historical necessity or voluntary pursuit of new opportunities, has enriched societies in the Americas, Europe, Asia, and beyond. They have nurtured vibrant cultural expressions that continue to redefine music, art, literature, and science, from the soulful rhythms of jazz and blues to the electrifying beats of hip-hop and reggae. The influence of African heritage is omnipresent, transcending borders and bridging cultures. In our conversation, we also examined the evolving nature of identity in an increasingly interconnected world. No single identity exists in isolation. Rather, each is a dynamic interplay of history, culture, and personal experience. Today, as the world becomes more globalized, individuals of African heritage exemplify the beauty of hybrid identities, a universal human spirit that draws strength from diverse traditions. Their creativity and resilience, honed over centuries of struggle and adaptation, continue to shape modern society and offer fresh perspectives on what it means to belong to a global community. Looking ahead, the future of Africa and its diaspora holds immense promise. With a youthful and dynamic population, a wealth of natural resources, and an ever-expanding influence on global culture and politics, Africa is poised to play a pivotal role in the 21st century. The challenges it faces, ranging from economic disparities to environmental concerns, are counterbalanced by a vibrant energy that is driving innovation and forging new pathways to progress. As nations and communities work together to address these issues, there is a growing realization that our collective future is enriched when we embrace both our shared heritage and our individual differences. Ultimately, our long discussion underscores a universal truth: that the story of Africa and its people is not a relic of the past, but an ongoing narrative of transformation and hope. It is a testament to the fact that while history may be etched in ancient monuments and oral traditions, the true measure of a civilization lies in its capacity to adapt, innovate, and inspire. In celebrating the rich legacy of Africa and its global diaspora, we are reminded that our destinies are intertwined. Embracing our diversity not only honors our past, but also illuminates the path toward a more inclusive, compassionate, and interconnected future.